Yes, ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na babwana, karibuni. It's still another Furahi Day, an on-call Friday. It's an on-call presentation of the OneMicShow. And without doubt, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, ladies and gentlemen, that the People's Kamukunji is about to be in full effect.
Alright, asante sana, karibuni tena ndani ya OneMicShow. Leo ni tarehe 30 Julai mwaka ni 2021. Na ni furaha kujiunga nanyi wapenzi wasikilizaji, tukiwa tumekuandalia taarifa za kusisimua, muziki wa kata viungo na kindumbwe cha siasa au politics ukipenda. Now later tonight, we're actually streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro studios outside Washington, D.C. So please remember to like our Facebook page. You can contribute to the conversation by dialing 202-683-4570 and press *5 to speak. Now later tonight in the social segment, we'll talk about a CVS investigative news story of Kenyans helping U.S. college students cheat. We'll be asking how much of this story is true or if part of it is sensational reporting. Na bila kusahau, tapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Moshfire na kudunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och jezi nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. So moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Karibuni tena.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, in news and politics this hour, we will be talking to a Houston-based career and leadership advisor about the politics of careers and promotion. It's been said that talent only accounts for 15% of career success, so stay tuned for that. Now, I'm in news and politics anchor Ali Badawi. It's Friday, the 30th of July, 2021, and we are coming to you live from Kilimanjaro studios outside Washington, D.C. So please remember to subscribe to our OneMicShow YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at OneMicShow. And on the panel with me tonight is the regular crew of Mr. OneMic himself. We have Cecil, aka DJ Moshfire, on the decks, and we have Mika Och, who is our sportsman, who will be talking sports to us. Now, tonight, we just want to get started right away because we have a lot to cover tonight. And on the show tonight, like I said earlier, we are taking a break from mainstream politics to talk about the politics of careers and promotions in corporate America. So have you, time and again felt that your place of employment has not fairly rewarded you for your efforts and talent? We also want to know if you have ever been in an environment where you felt that coworkers of less competence and experience are constantly getting promoted past you. So today we want to find out why working hard and playing by the rules does not necessarily lead to promotions or other successful career outcomes. And to help us navigate and break down this bothersome workplace puzzle is Miss Tabitha Njeri. Now, Tabitha is a Houston who helps people have more fulfilling careers. Now, she spent 15 years in corporate America, where she rose from a human resources administrator to a vice president at a global Fortune 250 company. Now, Tabitha, welcome to the OneMicShow. Wanna first check kama anatupokea vizuri. Can you hear us, Tabitha? We're gonna try to check the sound. I think we still cannot hear her.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
She had muted us. She had muted us.
All right, no worries. We are glad that loud and clear. And one important note about Tabitha is that she navigated career challenges and office politics firsthand in corporate America. This led her to founding her consultancy that seeks to help career professionals reach their goals. And we shall talk more about that shortly. But this coming Sunday, she will be hosting a free Zoom webinar at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be sharing the registration link shortly. And maybe just to get started, maybe we can get started before getting to the meat and the bones of our conversation. Tabitha, I want you to please maybe reintroduce yourself again in your own words and briefly tell us what prompted you to host a free webinar this coming Sunday. Tabitha.
Oh, thank you for having me here. I am so excited to be here. I think the best way to introduce myself is to start by talking about the experience of Kenyans or immigrants in corporate America, because that experience is what led me to be who I am and what led me to what I'm doing today. So I was fortunate to have navigated my career really quickly. But the reason I was so fortunate is because very early on, I had an executive sponsor who did not look like me and who did not sound like me, who helped me navigate my corporate career and tell me the unwritten rules of America. Now, I was able to do that very, very successfully. But at the same time as I was navigating my journey, I would sometimes struggle to find my fellow Kenyans who would keep pace with the progress that I was making. Not because they didn't have the quote unquote rules that I had handy, right? So I would see my intelligent, brilliant, hardworking fellow Kenyans and women, right, really struggle to reach their goals. And what do I mean by reach their goals? I would see them struggle to negotiate for the money that they needed, not only when trying to get a new job, but also during their annual performance review when we tend to get larger bonuses or salary adjustments, or even just negotiating for your worth. I also noticed a lot of women who would be overlooked, or Kenyans, for the promotions that they deserved, right? And so they struggled with all of these things. But even certain things like finding their footing in corporate America. Like I have very many friends who didn't know what they wanted to do in corporate America. And some of them went to nursing and they found successful, incredible careers in nursing. But some of them went to nursing because they did not understand how to navigate corporate America. So that was the fallback. So what do? I help people navigate their careers so that they can have the most fulfilling and successful careers. That's who I am.
Oh wow, that is so amazing, and I don't think I can even add anything onto that. And I think I'm gonna welcome my co-host here, Uno. We're gonna be also with DJ Omosh Fire, and Mika is also gonna be on the phone. And I can see some people already in here. Karibu sana Samantha, Karibu Joan. Now, Tabitha, when you're engaging with Kenyans who live in the U.S. Or any other immigrant communities in the diaspora, because you do that a lot, what are some of the most obvious blind spots you pick up or come across amongst us as far as our careers are concerned? Tabitha.
So great question, right? There's so many. So I'm going to kind of bunch them into three, right? And by these blind spots, I mean that these are the things that if we don't refine, if we don't do these things well, we will do great work, but we will not reach our career goals or progress as our careers as fast as we want to. So let me bunch them into three. So the first one I think has to do with what I call formidable presence. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, what impressions do you leave in the workplace about your capability to your peers, to leaders, not only just your boss, but also your boss's boss and beyond. And if you're a leader, to people who are less junior than you, right? So when you're plagued with self-doubt or things such as imposter syndrome, when you don't have the right kind of visibility to the right people, to the people of power at the executive table that make decisions, when you're doing good work, and you're assuming that your good work speaks for you, right? Those are some of the things that I bucket into formidable presence. Does your presence inspire respect and inspire the people that you're working with to feel the desire to move you or to support you, right, in terms of your career ambitions? So that's the first challenge or roadblock that I see. Okay. So it has to do with your presence and how you show up.
Okay. All right. What I was curious about is how does someone know whether they're inspiring that confidence or gaining that respect? You know, because you're going to work, you're doing what you're told to do, you're playing by the rules. So how does someone know that they're doing it, or how does someone become aware that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing to get that presence?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to give you the easiest example. When you go there to work and you try and negotiate for a salary raise, do you get it? When assignments to important projects are being given, are you on that list, right? When there's a promotion, right? If you apply to it, do you get it? Or do you get excuses? Or even the bigger one, are you tapped for promotions, right? If you're not getting tapped, right, even before you apply for positions that you're qualified for, then that could say a lot about whether you are having formidable presence.
Okay. That is interesting, and I want to welcome all the listeners and the rest of the panel. Like I said earlier, like this is going to be a conversation today. You can leave your questions, and I also want to remind the listeners that, of course, you are tuned in to the Politics Hour of the One Mic Show, and I'm your anchor and producer Ali Badawi. Now, tonight we're talking to Houston-based leadership and career advisor Ms. Tabitha Njeri. She will be hosting free career webinars this weekend, and the registration details will be posted in the comments. We're gonna work to make sure that those are posted in the comments. And Jerry, feel free to start sharing them in the comments so that people can start reviewing them and registering for those free webinars. We will later in the conversation talk about unique challenges that men face at work. So stay tuned for that. That's something that's not talked about so much. And also feel free to drop a question for Tabitha. She's here to answer your questions on our Facebook live stream. And please remember to subscribe to our OneMicShow YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at OneMicShow. Now, I don't know whether Mika has joined us already. Mika, are you there?
Akoeri kaba bacteria.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mika, karibu sana ndani ya OneMicShow. Now, before we continue, Mika, what are we going to be talking about in the sports segment tonight before we get back to Tabitha?
So on the sports tonight, we're going to be talking about Olympics. We'll talk about the performance of the various Kenyan teams that have participated, individuals. We'll talk about athletics. We'll talk about rugby, both male and female rugby, and then if we have some time, we might also talk what is the breaking news of the weekend so far. The moves that have happened recently on the NBA trade, and probably we might throw in a little surprise topic in there if we have some more time.
Okay, thank you so much, Mika. Now we wanna continue this conversation because we have so much to cover today, and we're still waiting for your questions. Now we're gonna go back to you again, Tabitha, and we know you spent 15 years in a global Fortune 250 company where you rose from HR admin to vice president. Now, talk to us briefly about your journey in the corporate world and what prompted you to leave a senior position and risk it all by starting your own company. Tabitha.
Yeah, thank you. But actually, before I say that, let me say that of the roadblocks, I shared one. So I'm going to share two more, and I'm just going to do it very quickly, right? So the three roadblocks are not having formidable presence, right? And then not actually having power influencers and power advocates who are on your side. Okay. And that has a lot to do with knowing how to work, being politically savvy, knowing how to work office politics. So I won't go into a lot of examples right now. And then the last one is not the idea of not having purposeful work, right? Like looking at a job as a job and not finding meaning within that work. Because what happens is if you don't find meaning within your work, regardless of the job, it shows. Right? It doesn't matter if you are a janitor, right? If you don't find, you guys probably know, and you can tell the difference between a janitor who's there to just do their job and a janitor who finds passion and meaning in their work. Is that fair?
I mean, it's fair, but I'm sure, my co-host here in studio might have something to say about that. I'm not sure.
I'm in agreement with her because, like, even where I work, you can find sometimes, janitor or even a cashier. There's a way you can be received. There's a way you can be greeted. There's a way communication. Hey, how you doing? How was your day? Everything okay? Oh my God, did you see this? Even that small interaction, which I have done as a cashier, it makes a difference, because somebody might be coming in, probably has had a rough day, but that small, hey, how you doing? Even to distract them. They smile a little bit, and you bring in maybe just like a small sunshine, but there's a difference. You can tell. There's some that come in, you're like, man, what you want, man? I mean, okay, all right, whatever. Slam the change on the table.
Yeah,
and you're like, ala, kareke.
Okay.
So you can tell. You can actually tell. Okay. And it may not be that they like the job, probably, but it's just their persona. It's just their persona. It's just who they are. Okay. That I'm here, and maybe you're looking at it from the angle of, I'm fortunate to have a job, or it's just their personality.
Okay, all right. We're going to get
Yeah.
into more detail about that. So Tabitha, talk to us briefly about your journey in the corporate world and what prompted you to leave a senior position and risk it all by starting your own company.
Yeah, thank you. And I will say what Moturi was saying, energy is tangible, right? If you show up to work and you're present and participating, it is tangible. And the decision makers notice that. And the people with the right energy get promoted faster than the people who just show up for the sake of work. So thank you for that question. It's a really good one. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey because my career journey has always been fueled intentionally or non-intentionally with what I call my personal currency, with the thing that I was put on this earth to do. It has fueled it, or it has lined itself through my corporate career. So for me, my journey in corporate America really started as an HR admin. I really did not know what I wanted to do. I just landed in this position. It wasn't a position that I really wanted, right? So while I was in that job, I had an opportunity to start seeing 401k representatives who would go to clients to actually talk to their client employees about the 401k option that our company was giving to them. And because I loved using my voice so much, I remember I reached out to some of these 401k representatives and asked them, can I please go and do your presentations for you, right? I promise I'll learn this material and I'll do it. And I'll tell you this, they gave me permission to do it. I learned it like nobody else. Keep in mind, I was like 23 and I became the best at doing 401k presentations as if right? The best I could be, right? As if I was a 401k expert. And that opened up the doors that led to me finding a sponsor and that led to my career journey. So through that position, I was fortunate enough to do hard work, but also to be aligned with the right people, right? To move very quickly into an HR consultant job. Then to move to Texas as a manager of HR consultants, become a director very quickly, and then a senior director of learning for 2 business units of ADP, the company I worked for, and then progressed into a national vice president of client experience for benefits program. So my journey was fast-paced, but it was not without making a lot of mistakes. It was not without getting the wrong brand, including brands like your Tabitha is a bad leader, right? Including brands like I talk to people like they're my servants. And it's amazing how these brands stuck, right? But I was also fortunate enough to navigate my way through that.
So let's slow down. So
Okay.
let's slow down here. You said in your career you got to a point where you were branded as a bad leader.
Oh yeah.
Talk to us about that. How did that happen?
So first and foremost, I was a bad leader, right? So like I was talking about earlier, the best opportunities are the ones you're tapped for. I was an individual contributor at the time. I was an account manager. And they tapped me and said, would you be willing to move to Houston to be a manager of Austin, Houston, and San Antonio, those 3 markets in Texas? And I was like, of course, yes. So I had never led people. And at that point, my immediate manager, a lot of times, guys, we pick up leadership or the way to manage from our immediate manager. And while she was a great person, she may not have been the best manager. And then on top of that, I thought I was the shit, right? I thought I was the shit because I was a great individual contributor. So of course I could bring my greatness to leadership. And the moment, guys, I took on my manager job in Houston with professionals who are more experienced than me, with professionals who are older than me, and of course, of all races and genders, I literally flunked. I was a horrible manager. Right? I was very focused on pushing my agenda because I thought what was best. I was not really good at receiving perspective from my team. I literally sucked. And guess what the consequence was? I started losing team members, right? HR got involved and learned about me as a bad manager, right?
Wow.
And I literally got to a place where I was at risk of losing my job because of my poor leadership skills.
And how old were you at this point?
At this point, I was 27 or 28?
Wow, so still in your 20s.
Yes.
Okay, let me get into the studio. I see
Because
a couple of questions.
I'll let fire that is Omosh.
Yeah, because hear me? Can you? Yes, I can. Apple. I was holding this one back. What?
Now you can let loose.
Hey, okay.
Satan.
Hey, Mazi, that speech. In fact, we need to start TED Talks. Okay, so here we go. So my question for you is simple. So at the point in time when you were being given the promotion to become, I guess, an area manager for 3 markets, right? Was there any sort of transition, aka training into leadership? Things like Myers-Briggs, things that and getting to learn how to work with a team, and then the overall big picture of the company and all that good stuff. It was just that one of this Chile, she got it. Watch I end.
Baptism by fire.
Uh-huh. Great question. There was. So the company I worked for is the global leader in human resources outsourcing. And when it comes to training and development, they are masters at it, right? So I went through new manager training, right? I had gone through a lot of ongoing development along the way, but here's the difference. And this is what I always tell people. And this is the reason why we have so many bad leaders. And I was one of them, is that theory is one thing. You can sit and go for training for 1 week of theory and you come out feeling like you know it all.
Even
But
1 year.
Yeah, even 1 year. But application and influencing
practice,
human beings who are so different is so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
And Poleni, I'm very high energy by
No,
nature.
We love that.
We love that.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
We love that. Now,
Yeah.
always sometimes, when by you saying that you are a horrible manager, we cannot just leave it at, or I cannot just leave it at that. Sometimes it's always important to provide context by giving an example as to how the moniker of bad manager started. So you have been moved from wherever you are, you've been taken to Houston, and then all of a sudden you're a bad manager. Maybe you can share 1 or 2 examples where, maybe in hindsight, when you look back, made you actually, even you just say, you know what, over there, me, I fumbled.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So when I came to this market, it was the worst performing market in the country for the last 5 years on 2 metrics that the business used: client retention, right? Client engagement, 3, and sales. And it had been the worst for 3 years. And so when I came in, having candidly, and I'm not tooting my own horn, I'm just saying what is, right? When I left Colorado, I was at the time the top performing person from a client retention and client engagement perspective. And even my salespeople loved me because I helped them close deals. And I'm not making this stuff. People have written references or recommendations on my LinkedIn. So I'm not making it up, right? So I came to Houston to now turn around this situation that had been the worst performing for 5 years. So I had been doing so well, I thought that I knew the solution. I thought that the problem was the people, and that the way to do it, the processes to follow, were mine. And mine was superior because they had worked in Colorado and
You're the
Arizona.
master.
Yes.
When
So
the
I
song
came
call.
in, and to me, these people were like, what's wrong with them? Why are they not doing what needs to be done? So I came on hard, right? And I had a lot of critical energy. I blamed them, right? I was the manager who was always tearing them down in their processes and focusing on their weaknesses. When instead what I should have been doing is really stepping into their shoes and understanding them and coaching them and guiding them and still holding them accountable, but a little bit using what I call pull influence, getting their buy-in and commitment versus push, which is all about compliance, right? That I used at the time. That's just one big example.
All right. Wow. That's real interesting.
You
and,
guys had that push-pull.
Yes.
Wewe ulikuwa mubaya wewe, wewe ulikuwa mubaya wewe.
and I'm also assuming some of these people were older than you, considering you're like
I
in your
think
mid
probably
20s.
most of them.
All of them.
All of them. Okay.
All of
All
them.
right. Yeah, that's another challenge that
And race is a
we also
factor.
gonna talk about
Sex
later.
is a factor.
Yes.
Immigrants
and
with
then-
an accent.
And then she comes in and then she has a accent from City where?
Yes. Let's hear from
Mika,
Mika.
go ahead.
Let's hear from Mika real quick.
No, I want to come in there when she said that most of the team were actually older than her. So this is something that I actually experienced on my first time when I got into a leadership position. And the sad thing for me was that my team was all women, all white, and all older than me. And I only had one guy who was also white, and he was older than me. And one of the challenges I actually found was when it came to reprimanding. Like, they were older than me. I just felt like I cannot talk to somebody who's like my mother or who are trained, have been raised up to respect in a certain way. So I don't know if this is something that you found as a challenge, and how would you be able to tell people on how to be able to manage a team that is specifically older than them? Because for me, what actually helped me was the fact that what actually helped me for me was the fact that I managed to be able to get into their shoes, and I come from a technical background. So for me, it was much easier because, you know, how the older generation don't like change. So when it came to implementing change, I used to be more hands-on on that and getting to know the people, getting to know the team individually. And it took some time before they opened up to me, but I eventually managed to get the team to work around me. But I just don't know if you have any idea or you have any other way you can advise somebody who finds themselves in such a situation.
Yes. So great question. And you're right. That's a big challenge when you're a younger leader, right? And you're leading people who are older than you, not only in their role and expertise, but also in the business. So they can tell you how things were and why things were done the way they were, right? So that does make it difficult. So whenever I'm working with leaders, right, who are transitioning into new roles or just individuals stepping into new jobs, I give them a 3-step formula. And it is so simple, but I urge everybody to literally follow it. And when people don't follow it, they're like, it's not magical. But when they do, it's magical. So here's a 3-step simple formula. The first is accept. Very simple, right? Accept the fact that you are in that position because you own it or you've earned it. And accept the fact that the challenges that you have exist in terms of your people. So the first step is acceptance. And part of acceptance means you're not in there trying to drive change from day one. Part of acceptance means you're trying to understand the environment, the people, the business before you start to provide change or ideas or initiatives. So step 1, accept, right? And spend the time learning. Step 2 is prove. This one's really interesting. What do I mean by prove? I always tell people this: do things the way your predecessors tell you to do it. Prove that you are capable, right, of meeting their expectations, however low. Prove it. Right? That means that, again, you're focusing on proving and gaining credibility with the people that you need to eventually lead. And it's important to prove your worth to those individuals. So you spend time learning, then you spend time proving yourself, and then you step into the third stage. When you've proved yourself and now you have credibility, then and only then can you step into the stage I call convert. And this is the stage where now you get them to change their ways. You get them to buy in to your ideas. But that step, if you pull it forward before accept and prove, you're just creating roadblocks for yourself. You're going to create resistance. So it's that 3-step formula. And again, then and only then in the convert stage can you start to change perspectives, to share initiatives and things like that.
Question,
Yes.
Njeri. We're talking about the second step. We're talking about, I guess, proof. This is to show whether, because you talked about predecessors. Now, if the predecessors' modus operandi was Madhogodanio and Madhogodanio, so the proof part is, or would be, to show that, hey, I don't know what that is going on, would be to show that that system does not work before you convert them, or it is to show them that the system works and you can continue without needing to convert.
Exactly, without needing to convert. At this point, we're not proving to anybody that their way is wrong. We're showing them that we are capable of maintaining status quo.
Okay.
We're not introducing resistance. I'm going to give you an example of an existing client I have. She is a senior level HR director for one of the big name tech companies that we all know. She goes in and she's a director. And as a director, she lands or she gets a manager, a VP, who's a micromanager. And she can't believe it. She's like, I am a director and I'm being micromanaged to the minute by my boss. And she wanted to run certain initiatives, but her manager was being resistant. So I said to her, listen, we first have to accept the fact that your boss is who they are, understand why they're making the decisions that they are. Then second, prove to them that based on their criteria, right? Based on their own criteria, you can meet their expectations. You can survive and do well with status quo. You are capable of understanding and executing at status quo, and then convert. And it's amazing because that simple formula moved her from resistance to acceptance in a matter of a month. Within a month, her manager is no longer micromanaging her. She's actually going to be on the webinar telling the story. And her peers are still being micromanaged, but she's not, right? So again, we're not going into the details of the formula, right, at this moment. But I'm telling you, this formula of accept, prove before you convert. It's the best way to release resistance so that you can then, it's like stepping back so you can move forward powerfully and faster without any resistance.
Okay, so accept, prove, and convert. I hope people are writing that down. And we do have some comments here coming from our listeners. Kingori Kanye is the first, and he says, and here I was thinking she is in her mid-20s now. Okay. All right, Kingori, interesting comment. And then Njeri John Kimani says, I reported to someone like Tabitha before, and they are the worst. Glad she learned and stopped pushing her ideologies on her employees. All right, so that's also another interesting comment. Now, I want us to take, like a slightly different turn here, Tabitha. Your company, that's called Stitch Story LLC. It helps or enables people progress in their careers. Now, how exactly does this work? Because the idea of career advancement may be unclear to people who believe it's all about hard work. Now, I want you to explain what you do maybe day to day, 9 to 5, to help someone that might benefit from your services understand that it's not all about hard work. Tabitha.
I love it. Thank you. I also want to respond to a comment by Njeri. I think Joanne Njeri, right?
Yes.
And it's a really big one because there's a couple of things I always say. We will all experience bad managers, whether they're like me, right, who started a career as a bad leader, but changed, right, and got to be one of the best leaders. And I have engagement scores. I share them sometimes on my page, right? So I'm not kind of like upping myself genuinely. I'm not trying to do that. My LinkedIn proves it. My engagement scores prove it, that I was able to convert that bad leadership into great leadership, right? So first and foremost, if you are making leadership mistakes, it's okay, right? There is no perfect leader. The goal is to grow. But here's the biggest thing I want to share to people is that you will always hit bad leadership because there is a lot of bad leadership. But the question is, do you have the skills to navigate through a bad leader? Right? And that's one of the things that I teach people is that, so can you create an environment where your leader doesn't matter? Whether your leader sucks or whether they're great, you will thrive. That's one of the best things that top performers know. That's one of the things that I teach. And I'm going to tell you how I teach that to your question. So Stitch My Story, by the way, was formed really interesting. So I left ADP, I was no longer there. And my former boss, one of my bosses, was working for Aon, which is a large consulting company. And she calls me and she says, you got to come work for me. And I'm like, nope. She's like, you got to come work for me. I'm like, nope, I'm done with corporate. And because at the time I was in a place of a lot of unclarity. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to do with myself. And so she said to me, okay, fine, then just make a company and come, let's do a business to business relationship. And I was like, sure. And since I didn't know the name of my company and I was super lost, I called it stitchmystory.com. Because I was like, I'm going to stitch my own story through this. I'm in that period. So that's how Stitch My Story was born. Okay. With my former boss as a client. But so how do I help clients? Yes, sorry.
Yes. No, go ahead.
So how do I help companies today, clients? I do it two fronts. There's one front where it's a business front, where I work with small and mid-sized companies. My smallest company has 32 employees. My largest has about 270 employees, where I provide HR executive and training services. But that's one side. Let's talk about the people side, the coaching side, which is what I'm doing now. So I do it in 3 ways, right? The first way is I do executive coaching. And anybody right now who's doing executive coaching with me is a C-suite executive. I'm not saying I don't do it with other leaders, but from a price point perspective, it makes sense when people are on the C-suite level or VP level, but anybody and everybody is welcome. The second way I do it is I launch what's called a Best Self at Work Career Intensive. It is a 10-week program where we take people through everything that they need to be successful in their careers and overcome any roadblocks that they may experience. And guys, if you're at the webinar tomorrow, because it's one thing for me to say, but you will hear about the transformation that has happened from people in the class following these formulas, right? So we teach skills like effective or having productive conflict. We teach how to negotiate. Somebody in my class was able to negotiate within that 10 weeks a $45,000 raise. I'm not making it up. They'll be there this weekend, right? A $45,000 raise. They negotiated that, right? We teach career clarity to help people really understand their personal currency. What is it? How should you show up at work all the time to make sure that you stand out, you're leveraging your own personal currency, and you're fathering your career faster, right? And then we teach skills like influencing, advocating for yourself, those kind of things. So that's the second way that I do that. It's a boot camp that I offer. I'm offering one starting August 21st. And then the third way that I do that is through, which it candidly is through my free online content. I hope it's educative enough, right? Where it gives people an opportunity to learn and grow.
Okay, all right. And
$45,000.
$45,000.
So Ali,
yeah.
Ali doesn't know how to negotiate. He might need somebody to speak in Swahili.
No, so you mean like if if I get your services, I could potentially get a $45,000 raise.
I cannot promise you some things because there's conditions, but here's what I can promise you.
Yes.
You may not be able to get it right now if you don't have the right brand reputation, if the right framework is not in place. For her, the right framework was in place.
Okay.
You can get it through negotiating in your existing job or negotiating when you're trying to get a new job. How many times do people go and negotiate for a new job, get a new job, and you get a 10% raise and you're like, woohoo, right? My argument is if you know your personal currency, you can negotiate for unbelievable numbers.
There's
right?
always fear. There's always fear when negotiating.
45,000?
There's always fear when negotiating that you could get to a point. Yeah, there's always fear when negotiating that you could get to a point where they might say, okay, like we can't afford you, we'll find someone else for this position.
When does that ever happen? If someone is of value, right? Because I work with clients on the HR side, especially last year and through my entire career, I've worked with companies to do layoffs. Right. And when we're behind the scenes and we're doing layoffs, oftentimes we rarely use last in, first out. In fact, I strongly recommend against the last in, first out formula, unless the last in, first out formula kind of works, right? And being candid, right? So what is the formula that you best recommend? Here's the thing. Your most highly compensated employees, if they are not delivers of value, if they do not have the right brand, of course they're going to be targeted. But if you command a high salary and you demonstrate, the key thing is not that you do great work. You have to do great work, but even more so, you demonstrate your great work over and over and over again. You have no fear.
Oh, Moshfire. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Njeri. Sorry.
No, I'm done. I can't remember what I was talking about.
No, you're talking about commanding. If you're talking about forget the last in, first out method. Funny enough, we have that in IT. LIFO, FIFO, first in, first out, last in, first out.
Programming, yeah.
In programming or even career, certain protocols in career in comms. But you're saying that sometimes it's not about the last person who's, because I've had those sentiments echoed when I'm talking to people, because when we're talking about companies, especially like now during COVID, you find that some guys were like, you know what, this one I think I'm gonna be the first one to be chujwad, and sure enough, you're the first guy who has been chujwad.
Yeah.
After I know guys who be like, hey, hapa I know.
But sometimes it's really it's not based upon when you came in, it's based upon your effort of work. So your body of work speaks for itself. And then on top of that, you're the junior. Hey.
Okay. All right.
That
and,
is in.
yes, and I want to remind the listeners that you're tuned into the Politics Hour of the One Mic Show, and I'm your anchor and producer, Ali Badawi. Now, tonight we're talking to Houston-based leadership and career advisor, Ms. Tabitha Njeri. She will be hosting free career webinars this weekend, and yes, I said webinars with an S, plural, this weekend, and registration details will be posted by her in the comment section, and she will also talk about those webinars shortly. Now, we also want, all your listeners out there, like I know she's giving a lot of nuggets of good information. Want you to feel free to drop a question for her on our live stream about your career or about, like a career of someone you care about so that she can answer your questions. And also, please remember to subscribe to our OneMicShow YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at OneMicShow. But before we continue, Uno, what are we talking about tonight in the social segment? This is before we go back to Njeri again.
Are we not going to be discussing about the careers and movement and stuff? With our special host over here. It can be. That's what we're going to be doing, right?
Okay, yeah. But we're also going to be talking about the Kenyans who are helping Americans cheat.
Now, that one, I think, in addition to
Yes.
unisocial segment, so that is also part HR, part Njeri. But you know what? Watu lazima wakule bwana. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right.
So are you saying that those people used to write papers for us at school were not supposed to write them? The ones we paid like $1.
Is that how you got your degree?
Boss, I'm telling you that's what happened because some of us couldn't type.
Okay. All right.
So you had to go
No,
get
another
somebody
question
to
is
release.
this.
I'm glad you're coming out.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Hey,
it.
You're
I'm
I'm
glad
coming,
you're coming out.
you have to be,
Yeah.
no. You have
But
to
the
be
content was mine. Somebody
Listen.
just typed it.
Listen.
So you're talking about a typist. The content was yours.
The
Someone typed
content
it
was
for you.
mine, yes. So I gave them. Those are the days of what perfect.
Okay.
The question now is, at any point in time, did Njeri, Miss Career Advisement persona, at any point, did she have to have somebody type her, do her research paper for her?
This,
Uh,
she's not gonna say.
oh,
Boss.
but
No,
she
bana.
won't say.
Ayi bwana, hii ni brand bwana.
Oh, sorry.
Una mess vitu.
No, just asking.
I could mess, but I did not. I did all my papers.
Okay. All right. Good. But we're gonna talk
In
about that
quotes,
shortly.
I
in
think she
quotes.
must have put a smiley face on
quotes.
hers.
Yes.
She even worked at a smiley face.
All right, we're gonna have that conversation in the social segment. So back to you, Tabitha. Now, your Facebook wall has lately become the go-to place for a lot of career enthusiasts because of your thought-provoking write-ups about workplace politics. Now, there's been a gender angle to some of your thoughts, and you've been very pointed about issues facing women at the workplace. But earlier today, you surprised many with a post titled "Men Face Unique Roadblocks at Work." And I would like you to talk a bit about why this gender approach is important when it comes to career advice, and also talk about the male-related issues you address that are rarely talked about. Tabitha.
So, it's interesting, right? Because when we think about the US, and I'll just talk about the US for now, and we think about Black men versus Black women, a lot of people might say that Black women are growing their careers faster, right? More fluidly in corporate America, whether it's true or not, right? I think there's been this rush, right, of women. So that's just an example to say that, and this is the same in Kenya, right? Many more women are educated and are flooding the marketplace. So what does that mean? That means that there's a lot of tension right now in the workplace in terms of what is the right way to do work, what is the right way to relate, right? And especially when men are used to being in control in leadership roles, and sometimes they are either being usurped or even been asked to bring women along, right, through affirmative action as part of the process. All of this, women who have earned it, all of this is creating a lot of tension in the workplace that needs to be worked through. Now, when we talk about challenges in the workplace, we often do it for women. And in fact, I've heard this idea that the girl child has continuously been empowered. Why? Because it's easy to see the challenges we face as women, right? It's obvious, it's there, we're women, and it's been a focus for so long. But at the same time, as the workplace is transitioning, roles in the home are changing. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not giving a comment on that, right? Roles of women versus men are changing. The question of who raises children or who's responsible for, taking care of the child, is it the man, is it the woman, who's bringing more income income home, is changing. All of that is changing, right? And sometimes our men may not be as quick to change or to embrace the change, and that's creating more tension. But they're also facing roadblocks now that they never faced before. So the reason I posted that is because I believe these are healthy dialogues that need to happen when there's respect both ways. There's respect for positions. It's not men versus women, but also to let men know that we know that they too are going through certain challenges, and they too can address those challenges directly so that they too can have more fulfilling and successful careers.
Okay, all right. That's quite interesting, because this issue about men is rarely, it's rarely talked about.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because there's a lot, there's a lot of resources nowadays on helping women with their careers, and then there's, of course, that boy-child argument that comes up.
I think there's a lot and I will always go back to what my boy Maganda, John Dennis Maganda says. There's a kind of programming that we have in us, DNA wise, however you want to look at it, that Jamas, there's always this thing of Jamas, be strong, you can't show emotion, you can't career, you can't win, you can't do whatever,
For the African male.
Be
African
strong.
male.
Yeah.
But even I think even here, even the male over
The male
here,
in general.
You're talking
The male
about
in general.
the white male,
black male, whatever it is, whatever male it is,
tough it out.
tough it out.
Yeah.
Tough it out. I remember Michael Baisden, I think, had a novel some time back, men cry in the dark, and sure enough, men do cry in the dark. We may not cry to our friends. If I have a problem or situation, closet, sorry.
Yeah.
I may not even talk. Go ahead, Mika.
Sorry, one of the things that when I started, when I became a director for the first time, is that I noticed that throughout the teams that were being managed under me were like, we, in our company, we had something called mental days. And as I was going through and looking through the days, how people are taking vacations, how the PTOs, like trying to figure out how to balance work, I realized that a lot of the men are not taking mental days. They were not taking mental days they were supposed to. And mental days were not PTO, were not sick leave. Were just that you were feeling you're overwhelmed. You could take a few days and say, I'm resting, I want to ease myself out. And so it's something that I went and spoke to other directors and managers and asked them, have you noticed a trend here? Or is it just in my team? And it was something that we realized that a lot of the men in the company are not taking mental days. So we had to start coaching through HR and leadership. We had to start coaching and telling people like, yo, these days are here for you to use, right? There are times where I can see from your performances you're burnt out, and you're not, and you're burnt out. It's not, and I can feel the frustration. That's why we have these mental days. You can take it out. And then another thing that we had in the office that we decided to put in flex hours and told people, like, we realized that most of you in the afternoon, through work and just work and everyday project demands, most of you in the afternoon are not performing. Try putting your meetings in the morning, and try coming in the morning at 6 a.m. and leave by 2:30. Like, try to make it easier for yourself to work. Like, we saw how the female employees, they were taking advantage of all these things, the flex works and all, because they would say, I have to go pick the kids from work, I have to go do this, I have to do this. So they were taking advantage of this. But it was the male counterparts who were just coming to work at 9 and leaving at 5, and nobody's taking flex days. Even PTOs, they're the ones who had the most accumulated PTOs. You see somebody had like 300 hours of PTO, and you're like, how much do you love your work? Because I don't think you're that busy. So it became something that as leadership, you had to look at it and start coaching your teams and telling them, okay, we will start forcing you to go to mandatory PTO. You're not cashing out. You have to take your days.
Okay.
And you also have to start taking your flex days and to take your mental days.
All right. Important. Interesting. Uno, you had something you wanted to add?
No,
onto
I was
that?
going to add, and I think, even Joanne Oro Pot, she didn't like me calling her like that. Is mental awareness. Like for Africans, even with her starting that
Africans
branch,
for mental health.
Africans for mental, because sometimes men, not sometimes, men really do not, like Mika is saying, don't do that. Even just mental, just even sit back and just do a mental check. You'll do a health check, you do your boys check, Ali, okay, whatever. There's some things probably that I've never talked to Ali about,
No, that's true.
or I've never talked to Omosha about, and some of those things are probably like, yo, Gade, I need to talk to you, just like that, like,
Yeah.
yo, Maze, kuna hii situation, there's this situation,
Yeah.
just that simple.
Yeah.
But mamas, my guy, those ones,
They know how to do
they
it.
will call a kamkunji.
Yeah, they know
But-
how to do it, like they're comfortable doing it. So this is something that I
Yeah,
think,
and all
men
this
need to learn.
translates, because it's trickled down or bottom. Is it bottoms up?
I know.
Trickle down.
No,
Oh,
but
sorry.
let's not go there. Let's not go
But
there.
To
what
say
I'm
the
saying
hook
is, it's a domino effect, because if this stuff is affecting you, let's say nyumbani,
Yeah.
it's gonna affect you probably your relationship between, let's say, me and you, me and Ali, or me and Omosh, me and Mika,
Yeah.
whatever. Which eventually, I will probably take it to Jobo, because when I'm at Jobo, I'm thinking about the Madhagwadani that's going on, and probably I don't
home.
even know how to
Or what
handle
you're going to
it.
go back to.
Exact.
Yeah. So it affects your performance.
It does.
Yeah,
It
it
does.
does.
And that is why the boy child thing, because I saw it, but Jobo's
Yeah.
crazy. But I'm going to comment, but
Yeah.
I think it was important to bring it up. Go ahead. But
Yeah.
what
And,
really-
yes, go ahead. Go ahead. You wanted
Can I
to
quickly add, like, for men and women too, but for men, I'm going to give you guys a 3-part criteria to know it's time to get additional help that something's off, right? The first one is loss of confidence. If you are a person where for a long time you felt very confident in your execution, that the ability to get things done, and you're starting to feel internally a loss of confidence about your professional efficacy, that's a first sign, right? A second sign is the loss of emotional energy, right? We often call that burnout. When you start to feel emotionally, you're exhausted, right? It may not be physical, but you're feeling it emotionally. That's the second key. And then the third one is big. It's cynicism. When you start feeling negative about your work experience, the idea of going to work and you're feeling negative, the idea of connecting with your colleagues and you start feeling negative energy. So when you start experiencing negative energy and cynicism, that's your third sign that something's off, and you need to go in, get to the root, and solve that problem before you burn out and even potentially hurt your brand in the workplace.
Okay. All right. So we're running on overtime right now. We're going to take a few extra minutes. No worries. This is a very important topic.
We are very fluid here.
Yes. So I wanted to know, Tabitha, you've worked with clients from Kenya and also other parts of Africa. Now, for the benefit of those that maybe might be looking to move back home to work there, what are some corporate culture differences between US and Kenya that you might have picked up in the course of your work, Tabitha?
So this one is the most surprising for me,
Na
right?
fungua
Because-
roho.
because a lot of times, so when I'm working with people, I like to do an assessment to understand their influence style. So there's 12 different influence styles. There's 12 ways that we interact with others in the workplace, and I like to hone in on them. And it's fascinating because every Kenyan I've worked with, and they all work in different spaces, like they're not all in the same office, right? They all noticed a trend that in Kenya, right, that the influence style that is the most successful when you look at senior leaders, because I teach them also how to assess the different influence styles, right? The influence style that is most successful and is contained in senior leaders is what's called the influence style, right? It's actually one of the 12 styles. It's called I, right? People who are successful are really great with people. People skills, right, are really essential when you're working in a bureaucratic environment, right? And B, a place where you have to navigate things such as tribalism and sexism. What's going to get you to stand above the herd in Kenya, from my experience in corporate environment, is your relationships and your ability to network beautifully. That is a key differentiator, which really surprised me, about corporate Kenya. And by the way, it's been consistent.
So does personality also get into that as part of that?
Yes, so we all have nature and nurture, right? So for example, Ali's style is what I call a C style, right? That's his nature. But all of us have the ability to
explain
draw
the C
from
style.
Hold on.
Explain what the C
Ali
style
has
is.
got C style. I want to know what the C style is.
Yeah.
We all want to know.
No, chill,
Huyu,
guys. I know you all are trying to be like me, but chill.
Huyu ni Kagame huyu.
Chill out.
Huyu ni Kagame huyu.
Ni kama
Benevolent dictator.
No,
ni
chill
kama
out.
paka, he's a cat.
Oh, he's a cat.
Apana,
With 9 lives.
He's a C.
Don't try to ruin my brand.
Aya.
Yeah, don't try to ruin my brand.
Tumeambiwa ni C style, eh?
Eh?
C style.
Yeah.
Hebu tuambie hii
Njeri,
Ali
talk
C
about
style.
the C style so that people understand what you're talking about.
Yes. So within the spectrum of influence, right, people typically make decisions from a task-oriented perspective or from a people-oriented perspective, or feeling-oriented perspective. Now, the C style is one of them that's very task-oriented or task-driven in terms of decision-making. So what does that mean?
This one is that one.
Yes. It means that Ali is focused on logic, right? He's focused on ration, right? He asks a lot of questions and doesn't buy in until there is ration and logic that meets his stringent expectations.
Preach,
right?
sister.
It means that justice is very important to him. It means that he cares about data. It means that he cares about results and process first, right? Before people. That doesn't mean that he doesn't care about people, but
He doesn't care
He
about
doesn't-
us.
he doesn't care about people.
Guys, chill out.
doesn't
No,
care.
no,
You guys need to chill out. Eh?
He's
You see?
great. He cares about people, but
Case
by
in point.
nature,
Case in
right.
point.
But you have to be logical.
Okay,
You
go
know.
ahead. You see?
Hata kani mapenzi
You have to be
unatafuta.
logical about
No, wait. Hata kani mapenzi
How?
unatafuta.
How you
You see?
logical?
No, wait. Hata kani mapenzi unatafuta.
Njeri.
You come with the reasons.
You
with
see?
why.
Case in point. Case in point.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
Ati, we
you
need,
guys-
ati,
you
we
guys are
need a
taking-
reason to be like.
Ati,
No,
Ati,
wait.
give me the metrics. Hold on. Your data that you've provided. By the way, sometimes you can even ask Ali a question, then you're like, damn, you know what? Let me think this through before I pose a question. Because you know what? Say, atoleza swali ingine, you're like, you know what? Son of a twang, guys. This guy, come on, man.
Me, I would like Ali to take Myers-Briggs. Juu nataka kujua atatoka na nini.
Go ahead, Njeri.
And here's what's also interesting, right? Knowing the styles is important when it comes to influence. So, for
Yes,
example,
yes,
if who's an I, I'm butterfly, right? I'm trying to influence Ali, and I come with my warm, fuzzy, big noise, because that's how I influence, right?
Utajua
Big
hujui.
voice.
Bricks.
Ali would shut me down, and let me tell you how he would. He would ask me for more data. If you work for people at work and they keep asking you for more data before they make a decision, right? That a lot is your C style. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it means that if I know that Ali is a C style and I need to influence him, I will be data forward, I will be ration forward, and I'll be logic forward, right? Versus the other 12 styles, I will adjust and influence them based on how I know they are influenced. So I think that was it. But in Kenya, right, people have mutual. Oh, and here's what I was going to say actually. Just because Ali is a C by nature doesn't mean that by nurture he can't learn to borrow an I, right? Which I actually think he's done very well in terms of borrowing from some of the
Yeah,
other.
tell them.
Borrowed zero from over here. Kwenda huko.
If anything is on the negative when it comes to borrowing.
He's on
If you had borrowed like the Jubilee government, to understand. But this one is on the negative.
he's a NB, negative borrowing.
But go ahead,
chill out,
Njeri,
chill
go
out,
ahead.
guys. Don't get too excited. Let Jerry talk.
But yes,
Yeah,
so
there you are
just
on the
because
operation table.
Yes, just because nature you're one way, by the way, it's a strength, maximize on it. But the overuse of it is a weakness. So for example, if Ali overuses his C, he could be seen as somebody who's difficult. He could be seen as somebody that is always challenging the process when he doesn't need to, right? So it's learning that. But you can also borrow from the other styles. So he can also borrow his I when he's in Kenya, right? So he can be more effective at influencing and grow his career faster. So those are some of the things that's one of the biggest things I noticed in the Kenyan culture.
But let me say this. I think Ali's C style, for me personally, you know, let me look at the glass half empty, not half full. Half full, not half empty. Has been positive for me. I'm gonna say for me.
Yes.
In that, you know,
thank you.
calm
Something
down.
positive,
Boss,
finally.
slow down. Don't make me
But
more than
it's
you.
also annoying.
Mika has said it. I wasn't gonna say it, but
Aya,
Mika said it.
where Maliza
But
yako
let me,
kwanza.
let me say it's annoying in a sense that, you know what, have your I's dotted and your T's
T's
crossed
and your ducks in a row.
and your ducks in a
Yes.
row. And I think
Yes.
that is important across life because
Yeah. Mhm.
it makes you more mitho, makes you more alert. It actually even prepares you better. You know, now there's some things when I look at, I'm like, you know what? Okay, this guy is going overboard. But you know what? I know I know it's Ali.
That's
So I don't.
that's his style.
But also that has contributed to a very positive, angle, like even with the show, because you don't want.
we rethink. We really
Oh,
rethink
a lot.
Yeah, you're like
You can't
okay.
you can't come
Yeah,
and just
no,
talk about.
You're not coming half.
No,
Yeah,
no.
half-baked. Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna come half baked, even that half baked, we're gonna provide an angle to you know what? Okay, we're gonna say it's half baked, but you know what? Based on this and this and this, so even you go out of the perimeter to address the half baked, which is positive, which is good.
But let me quickly say something before I give Mika a chance, because Mika is also trying to bring in a point. You know, like being a C, and this is something, you know, most people don't know what a C and I is, but you know, like people who know me, like family, friends, you know, people who are close to me, they've pointed out some things to me. You know, like there's things, for example, like I read a lot of news, I read a lot of articles, you know, so my radar is always very up, you know, like when because there's a lot of fake news, a lot of fraud happening via text message.
Yes.
And to me, these fraudulent things are very obvious to me.
WhatsApp News
You know,
Network.
Yes, you know, so you know, some of these fraudulent stuff, they're very obvious to me. There's some that I've shared with Tabitha before. They're very obvious to me, but it took me a while to realize that these things are not so obvious to everyone. You know, so that's one of the positive sides. Now, one of the negative sides of being a C, because all these styles have both pros and cons. One of the negative sides of being, you know, like a C is your radar is always so high up that even when someone is just, you know, like bringing up something, you know, like maybe sometimes casually, you know, like your radar is still up. You know,
One
like sometimes
example. Give us one example.
no, you know, like sometimes in WhatsApp groups, you know, like because to me, I'm very concerned with spreading false information.
But you know, no,
because it happens a lot. But sometimes people bring it like in WhatsApp groups, you know, like as a joke, you know, like maybe there's a funny
Okay, I
meme
see what you're
going
saying.
around. But sometimes my radar is so up, and I'm like,
Verify this,
and my
and it's a joke.
instinct is to ask that person, you know, like, did
Ulipata
you
hiyo
verify
wapi?
this? So I've gotten in trouble in my family group,
Yes.
you know, for bringing that up. So those are some, but I think it's important to identify, like Njeri is saying, it's important to identify, you know, like what style you are, so that you know where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where you need to dial down a bit, and where you need to, you know, like come out fully. And Mika wanted to say something. Mika.
No, the reason why I say it's very annoying is because when we do that to you, you get so defensive, and then once you realize that we've pinned you
Mika, ongea, toboa, and he's about to get.
And I have a response. I have a response.
You see?
Toa yote
You
Mika.
see? In other words,
Yeah, no.
see,
Yeah.
you see.
Like, when we do it to you, you get so defensive, and then once you realize, okay, fine, they've caught me here. You try to laugh it off, or if you don't laugh it off, you stand by your choice. You stand by your, like, no, it's this way. And you're like, okay, so you really want us to drink from your cup, but you can't drink from your own cup.
You know the thing is,
Yeah.
Ali, I'll tell you one thing. I
What?
think-
Nimekuwa kwenye sport leo.
No.
You're
But
a
for me,
C.
you're a C.
seeing yourself.
You don't
here.
see. You don't see
can't
yourself.
see yourself.
Can you see? But let me say this. It for me, it has been, as always. I always try to look at things from the half full, not half empty, half full. and it's made one of those, you know what, let me go out and learn more. Let me let me not just talk to talk. You know, if it's housing, you know, like, you know, during Trump's era, you know, if it's immigration, if it is stuff that actually, you know, is going to affect me somehow, you know, let's educate people. Let's get shit straight. But then, of course, now that thank you for identifying that C part.
I will never hear the end of this.
Everything has now made sense, because there's some things I'm like, you know what, like Mika is saying, sometimes, you know what, let us just church at this guy just to get to elicit a reaction. But it has proved for me, you know, positive. You know, no homo. Sorry, yeah, you know, relax.
It's okay.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. It has proved something that, you know what, even in my personal life, or even my own interactions or whatever, I just don't want to talk out of the tanye.
Oh no, same thing. Like, you know, the way Ali is very particular about, you know,
he's very anal. Sorry, I'm sorry. He's very anal.
The WhatsApp stuff and all that. Even me, I'm like that.
Even before I post something on our group.
No. And I need the facts.
Then I post.
Yes. No, this stuff is not. No.
Now here. Okay, this conversation, you know, has become very interesting. But I think, you know, the times when, you know, like the times when I because I always have to check myself. But the times when I blow back is the time when I feel, because, you know, like when you're when people are used to you constantly, you know, asking you to verify and show the data, blah blah blah. So what also happens, you know, like when people start knowing you like that, is that there's also sometimes an instinct to want to be ready to oppose something, even when there's clearly nothing to oppose.
True.
Yeah. So sometimes there's that instinct where you feel like, hata pia mimi, let me also come up with my data. So that's a time, you know, that maybe once in a while, you know, like there might be, you know, a back and forth, you know, a few ugly words here and there say that we cannot maybe say on radio, and then we get over it and we move on.
Guide.
But yeah, but that's interesting. And I think, you know, like we are going to do this, you know, maybe in a future show, we're going to do this personality analysis so that we can also get the personality analysis of Mika, Uno, and Mosh, because they're here.
Me, I'm non-confrontational.
They're here.
You know that.
They're here. You know, they're not going to have the end of this. This C thing, it's not going to leave me.
Let me tell you, it is going to be like your shadow. Now,
me, I can just say, I can actually say just me and Mosh are the same thing.
Okay. We'll verify that. You know. Yes. Njeri will come and verify that.
So you're saying we're SS?
Yes.
We are Sumbua.
Well, we're going to verify that. But anyway, let's now try to wrap up so that we can get to the next segment. Because, you know, like we've really gone over time today. But
is the king naked?
Ali, before you wrap up.
Is the king naked?
Yes. Ngoja, Mika has something to say. The king can never be naked. The king can never be naked. I wanted to shout out somebody. Mika.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Nimenyamaza, boss. Karike, man. Guy, more than.
No, I'm saying before you wrap up this segment, I just wanted to shout out somebody who's actually joined us for the first time, or first time listener. Who knows if ile kitu yako vezo yako fanya, but yes.
No, tuliacha hiyo. Tuliacha.
Yeah, that is Samantha. Ali ulimsalimia earlier on the show was on. Samantha, welcome to the OneMicShow. This is our craziness, our happiness. Ili base yetu siku hapa every Friday, and we hope that you'll be a continuous loyal listener. Ukuwe na top fan kama yeye yenye nani amevaa hapo. Is Nani still there? Mbona nasahau watu?
Yeah, okay. While you're
Amina
Holmes. Yeah.
If I just sini sawa?
Hapana. Achana na.
Nothing more.
Okay, sorry.
We've moved past that. These days of
I didn't say anything.
These days of diversity and inclusivity.
Okay, now before we wrap up, you know, some quick comments here.
Ali Sister Badawi.
Yeah, so we actually posted the link for the webinar, but before we get to that webinar,
I posted, yes.
You know, Sean Kangede says once again, OneMicShow giving $1 million worth of game. Great discussion, locked in. Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank
and
you.
then we also have Juwang, and Juwang has a question for the guest. Do the influencing styles change based on culture? For instance, by nature, I'm rationalizing, and that's my dominant style working here in the US. At a previous gig where I had a global role and worked with colleagues in Kenya, and times out of the Kenyan office, I was seen as asserting and totally threw me off. So briefly, Njeri, talk to us about that.
So great question. So different cultures can interpret different styles differently. So somebody that is very direct, maybe a woman that's very direct, for example, may be interpreted as being aggressive, much more back home. But to answer this, I'm going to give you a story of a current client. And this is not even a joke. So my client is an I. And she was having a lot of conflict at work and wondering why she was not getting the kind of appointments, the kind of political appointments that she was hoping for, right? They're not political, but they're almost political because they're government-based. And through the course, and I'm hoping she'll be there to tell her story this weekend, she started to realize that the reason she was in conflict is because she was approaching her leaders as an I. Eyes like me tend to like the high level, the flowers, the big picture. We don't like going in depth, right? But then she had leaders that had the D and the C style who are very task-oriented, results-oriented. They wanted to see data. So she was always showing up with her I, and they were expecting the D, so the C and the S style. And so she was being very ineffective. So she actually made the change, and I kid you not. So this is all in a period of 10 weeks. Literally 2 days ago, she got the assignment, the political the appointment that she had been hoping to get for years, right? Simply because she changed her influence style. So the point I'm trying to make is that these styles apply, and they are the same across the board. They perhaps may be interpreted differently, but in terms of, I have never met a person yet who didn't take the assessment and it did not nail them. And it did not nail their blind spots when it comes to influence and how others perceive them. And it did not nail how they can influence other people to get the outcomes that they're hoping for.
Wow. Are you gonna pay us to take, like to officially take our tests? Utatulipa? Ama ni
Ati
sindo-
niwalipe.
This one is
bana,
pesa.
utilipe.
Did you hear the way she
Ni
laughed?
sonko,
Did you hear the way she laughed?
Unajua ni Mkikuyu huyu. Kabla chomoke na kabla kapesa kachomoke.
Maze story ya do.
Maze do.
Yeah.
Dora. Shiringi.
Yeah, she was about to say Mwadhani.
Yes.
I was waiting.
Jesu
Yeah.
Jehovah.
But anyway, Tabitha, as we wrap up, tell us how people that may be interested in career advice can reach you, and briefly also talk about your upcoming webinars this weekend.
Sure. Thank you. You can send me an email at tabitha@tabithanjeri.com, tabitha@tabithanjeri.com, or you can send me a DM on Facebook. I am Tabitha Njeri. Tomorrow, and guys, if you enjoyed this, I hope it was valuable. Man, we go even deeper in a much more formal way. So have a pen and paper and show up for one of the 2 webinars tomorrow. They're both free. They're Zoom webinars. They're called Career Acceleration Webinars, where I am pouring out my heart based on my lessons, and the mistakes I made and the successes, the lessons, mistakes, and successes of my colleagues and clients, and really showing you what it is that you can do to accelerate your career. So it's going to be tomorrow. The links are on my page, and I'll drop them on here too, on this link. But it's tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central or 7 p.m. Kenya time.
Sema Eastern time. Eastern
Okay,
time is what
10.
people
10.
know. Yeah.
Okay, 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, or 10 a.m. Eastern time Sunday. It's going to be fun. It's 90 minutes. Get your pen and paper and just come with an open mind.
Now there was
Right.
one for women only, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one tomorrow is by the way, it's jam-packed. I just gotta give a big up to the girl child, right? We have
Boy
over
child left out.
right? Over 300 women who have registered. Who knows how many will show up? Who have registered for the Saturday one? That's women only. But the Sunday one also has men and women. So big up to the boy child, right?
child.
For you guys signing up, because that's also going. The one on Sunday is for both men and women. It's
Okay.
co-ed.
Okay, all right. That's good.
Na
Mika.
Clubhouse pia unapatikana ama uliweza kuja Clubhouse?
Njeri, Clubhouse.
Oh, sorry.
Njeri.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, Clubhouse, I tried, but there was not as much engagement, so I just kind of dropped off.
Yeah. Clubhouse ni watu wanapenda mshene.
Clubhouse is about mshene.
That's not good for Tabitha's brand.
No, her brand, she might go there with the mshene brand.
Yeah.
Maybe she has personalities for mshene.
Just that the time that she
Tabitha is probably a C. So
so
she,
engaging at that time, a lot of teenagers were the ones who were there.
That's true.
Okay.
Maybe I need to connect with you. I figure out the best time maker to show up.
Okay.
connect with the C.
Oh,
Ali C. Badawi.
All right.
Ali C. Badawi.
With that said, this is it for the News and Politics Hour. I want to thank Tabitha so much for her time on this important conversation about careers. Tabitha, thank you so much.
She's not going away, right?
I hope
She's still
you're
here
gonna
with
come
us,
back.
right?
There will still be questions coming in, so car to up or you can go take a break.
Yeah, don't run away.
Have some coffee.
Yeah.
Don't run away,
Yeah.
because I know, there are other questions that will pop up because the session was moving very fast and people were listening.
Diversity
But,
and inclusivity.
Yes, but we want people to stay tuned because later in the social segment, we will also talk about a CBS investigative news story of Kenyans helping U.S. college students cheat. So stay tuned for that. And not to forget the Hit or Miss segment by your favorite DJ Omosh Fire, who's about to drop a beat as we take a quick break. Mimi ni mtangazaji wenu Ali Badawi, aka Mjukuu Masai, and you're still tuned in to the One Mic Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na mabwana. It's very simple. Just know that we is about to get some entertainment from the one and only DJ Omosh Fire. So keep it locked. When we come back, sikuna sports. Alafu Hit or Miss. Alafu social. DJ Machachari Budabos.